Hey everyone, this is Mason, and you're listening to HerbRally. Our goal for the show is to help you along your herbalist journey no matter what stage you're at. We have over 792 episodes, so feel free to peruse those episodes and you're bound to find something of interest. Today's episode is yet another edition of the Herbalist Hour, and this time I'm joined by Rebecca Ingalls. So Rebecca is the herbalist and perennial grower over at Newhall Fields Community Farms, and she designed and led installation of the herb garden in 2018 and remains as curator and lead cultivator, holding workshops and overseeing the herb garden volunteer program each season. She is dedicated in her work as an herbalist and educator to cultivating beneficial and enduring relationships with the green world around us and to the alleviation of suffering. So Rebecca is the owner and founder of Swampscott Counseling and Palmer Pond Botanicals based in Swampscott, Massachusetts. I had a lovely chat with Rebecca. It was great to talk to her about her work as an herbalist, psychotherapist, and as well as her work on the community farm. So I really appreciate her taking the time to join us on the show. Thanks to you, dear listener, for tuning in. Also, before we get into the show, I'd love to thank someone named Green It Up Please on Apple Podcasts. They left us a fabulous 5-star written review, and it said, "I can't wait to listen to the newest any HerbRally podcast. Mason is a great interviewer." Well, thank you very much, Green It Up Please. That means a lot to me. As I said before, I was hoping to be a quasi-decent interviewer after 100 episodes, so now that we're approaching 130 interviews, I think I've got a fair bit better. So thanks so much. Glad you're enjoying the show. Dear listener, if you have a moment, please leave us a written review in Apple Podcasts, star ranking, 5 stars, pretty please. If you've been enjoying the show, it really helps out the discoverability of the show, and I really, really appreciate it. So thanks again. Also, before we get into the show, I want to say this episode is listener supported by our HerbRally Schoolhouse members. Thanks to each and every one of you members out there. We really could not do this work without you all. If you'd like to learn more about the HerbRally Schoolhouse, you could go to herbrally.com/schoolhouse, and you could use coupon code PODCAST at checkout to get your first 30 days for free. It truly is one of the best ways you could help support our work here at HerbRally so we could keep putting out these awesome interviews and all the other stuff that we're doing here in the herbal community. So that's going to do it for my rambling today. Enjoy today's episode with Rebecca Ingalls on the Herbalist Hour. I'll talk to you very, very soon.
Welcome to the Herbalist Hour. This is where community gather, merging the power of people and flowers, the sweet and the bitter to the salty, the sour. Umami, it's time for the Herbalist Hour.
Welcome back to the Herbalist Hour. Today I'm extremely excited to have on Rebecca Ingalls. Welcome to the show, Rebecca.
Thank you, Mason, and I'm extremely excited to be here with you today.
All right, we're on the same page. I love it already. Well,
Yeah.
we've had some back and forth via email and the internets over the past couple of years, and I'm excited to get to know you more. Why don't we start from the beginning? What was a young Rebecca like? And have you always been into plants?
Wow. I think yes. Always been into the plants. If we were to look through my baby book that my mother put together, she just plopped me right down on the ground. So I've got tons of pictures of me, like before I could even walk, sitting on the ground. Like, thanks, Mom. Thank you, Mom. Not for everything, but for that, thank
Right.
you.
Amen.
Yeah, and just I think I've been so fortunate. I was born in Iowa, but
Really?
since age 2, yeah, my father went to Palmer Chiropractic College.
Oh.
And so while he was in school, yeah, I was born out there one hot summer.
Okay.
And but from there, from like age 2 on, I was either on the Atlantic coast or the Pacific coast. And he couldn't practice chiropractic here in Massachusetts. I live in just north of Boston in Massachusetts. It wasn't legal to practice. So he brought us all out to California, and we moved a lot, but we ended up in San Francisco for the most part until like something all happened in 1967 out there in San Francisco.
Oh yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah, and so we moved on up to just north of the Russian River. Same little town that you hear Rosemary Gladstar talk about, Guerneville, California.
Okay.
And so yeah, we lived we lived for a year up in the hills of Guerneville. I went to fifth grade there, and my dad had a life-changing, I don't know, some type of epiphany where he decided that the only true food for humans was that grew on a tree. So we ate fruit and nuts for a year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Fruitarianism.
oh, gosh, it was intense because we had not been very, in San Francisco, I think I ate like peanut butter and fluff for lunch, and then cedar pies or Hostess cupcakes or
Wow.
junk cereal. Like my mom, I don't know. So they had this big change. It was quite drastic. So, but up there, we were really out in the woods, and we lived in a very small trailer in the hills with no electricity. And so we my three siblings and we hung around out in the woods when we weren't in school, and there were wild boar up there. And so my father made us aware of that and told us to be aware of where the trees in the surrounding area was, so we could run to safety and climb up a tree.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so I
That's
think
wild.
that's kind of very, very much into trees. I love trees, and I think just hanging out in the woods, and I don't know, the plants got me. They
For
just
sure.
got me, and looking back now, I can kind of see the line, but it was blurry for so much of my life. But now it's like, oh yeah, they got me, and
So I imagine eventually someone or somehow you figured out, oh, I could be an herbalist as a living. What was that
yeah.
transition like? And who were like some of the people you studied with or influences and whatnot?
I'd have to say, somewhere along the line in a health food store, there was I think one of those magazines you can pick up, and I think that's where I found Rosemary Gladstar, of course.
Makes sense.
Sage Mountain, and it
Yep.
was a correspondence course where you do your homework and put it in the mailbox and wait 3 or 4 weeks for your homework directed.
This is pre-internet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was late 90s. And at the same time, well, I might have done an aromatherapy. I think the aromatherapy course came first.
Oh, wow.
So
Who was
that
that with?
Pacific Institute of Aromatherapy, that's out there
Okay.
in the Bay Area with
Nice.
Dr. Kurt Schnellbelt.
Gotcha.
Great course, intense chemistry. And even I would say even before that, in raising two kids in the 80s, I had someone gave me a homeopathic kit. So and it had like a materia medica in it. I think it was boric or something like that. And so raising two kids, I was always looking through the materia medica, matching up, homeopathy, likes, treat likes.
Right.
So that was my real introduction to like the scientific binomials,
Yeah.
So it was ipecac, aconitum, belladonna.
Oh, yeah. We're talking the drop dosage plants here.
So I had never been to a doctor as a child. My dad as a
Oh,
chiropractor.
wow.
My mom was a registered nurse, but
Hmm.
he never brought us to the doctor, and I kind of followed in those footsteps. And homeopathy, whether it was placebo or not, I don't know it. I don't think it was, because my first real big experience with a plant was with Eupatorium perfoliatum.
Oh,
Bone
yeah.
set. So I took, I think I had the flu, and it matched up with my symptoms. So I took that, and it was an intense, trippy kind of feeling. And it just got me right through that bone aching fever. And so I couldn't wait. So I couldn't wait to get to know the plant.
Mm.
So, at this, somehow I found Richo Check's website.
Oh, awesome.
It was called Horizon Herbs back then, but it
That's
was
right.
like
I
before
remember
they
those
posted
days.
Do you?
Oh, I absolutely do. I remember when he made the transition to strictly medicinals. Absolutely.
Because that's out where you hail from,
That's
correct?
right. Yeah. So I'm from Eugene, Oregon, and I would say Richo's maybe like 2.5 hours south of where I grew up.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
I just that man has been so uh I don't know. I consider him a kindred spirit because when I look at his
I love
catalog,
Richo.
yeah, and then reading even after I started growing herbs, before he had published his book, Growing Medicinal Herbs, once I read his book, it was like, I do that. I do that. I'm like, oh man, I'm in sync with this guy so much.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
I love Richo. I don't know if I've told the story on the podcast before or not, but the first time I met Richo was at a herb conference called Rootstock, which is what Mountain Rose Herbs put on maybe 12 years ago when I worked for them. We hosted this event, and Richo was one of the teachers. I was in charge of the vendors, and I was helping Richo set up his booth. And I was trying to help him hang a sign. And this is like really when I first started getting into plants and herbalism, like gung ho.
yeah.
And I was like, I was gonna help him hang the sign, and I was like, oh, we can nail it to the tree. And Richo's like, we will not be hurting any trees this weekend.
You can just hear it.
And I was like, wow, my mindset just completely shifted right there. So yeah, I love that guy.
Yeah, he's good at shifting mindsets, and I think he's done so much. I mean, for me personally, just buying the seeds and getting to know each plant, like
Totally.
growing a plant, like I don't grow the plant, but I put the seed in the ground or in the pot, and like the rest is just like blows my mind every time. Every time a seed germinates, like
That's
wow,
magic.
yeah,
So, Rebecca, this is your show, but I do want to take a second to plug just for the listener, strictly medicinals.com, I want to say is Richo's website. And I actually just placed an order with him yesterday. Like, so this is good timing talking about Richo. And yeah, I guess this is the season where, as we're recording this, we're approaching spring here, and it's an absolutely glorious time. I haven't listened to it yet, but Richo was just on Rosalie De La Foret's podcast. So go check out that interview. I'm sure it's fantastic.
yeah. They were. I heard it. They were
Oh,
talking
did you?
about graphis, and I was so glad
Nice.
he went on to also plug the Growing Plant Medicine Volume 2 is coming out. I pre-ordered
Nice.
it. Like
Awesome.
I can hardly wait. Like his whole approach to growing plants and farming is just to me spot on.
Hey everyone, it's Mason. Just a quick interruption from the show to let you know about our 13 herbal freebies. If you go to herbrally.com, on the navigation bar at the top of the page, you'll see a button that says Freebies. Just click there and you'll sign up for our email newsletter. And in exchange, we're offering 13 herbal freebies. That's ebooks, webinars, videos, downloadable audio, and discounts to cool herbal companies. So if you'd like to check out these freebies as well as sign up for our email newsletter, we update you about current events, new monographs, new videos, etc. Just go to herbrally.com and click on the button at the top of the page that simply says freebies. Okay, that's it from me. Now back to the show. Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, Rebecca, you are such a plant nerd. I love hearing it. You listen to all these different podcasts, you're pre-ordering books, you're supporting everybody, including HerbRally, which I really appreciate. So, well,
Yeah.
why don't we delve more into a little bit about Newhall Fields Community Farm? I know we've like listed your events before, and now that I've was researching for this interview, I watched a YouTube video where you're kind of introducing the team, or someone recorded this beautiful video of Newhall Fields Community Farm, and it just seems like such a fantastic project. So I would like you to tell us and me and the listeners how that came to be and kind of just the general story behind it.
Cool. Yeah, I'd love to. I'm so
Yeah.
excited about, and it's yeah, so excited to talk about the farm. So this will be, so let's go back to 2017, and I'm teaching a course in Peabody, Massachusetts, and because I had a whole herbal business, Palmer Pond Botanicals, and what I would do, I made a lot of things. I had a cool apothecary and sold things, but one of the things I did as a community herbalist was free free programs, like at libraries, whatnot, farmers markets, that kind of thing. So I did one of those, and after each free community event I would ask people, like, do you have any space in your yard or any raised beds that you aren't using this year? Or if you know of anyone who has land, I'd love to grow some herbs, because I just wanted our community to have local herbs. So it turns out there was some farmland in Peabody that this woman who was attending the class knew about and asked me if I'd be interested in putting an herb garden. So it was, I'll just never forget driving out and seeing that land and being on it. Like, talk about a place, just the profoundness of this particular piece of property. I thought I had died and gone to heaven. Really, like, it was like a dream come true. And I paced out a herb garden, and we got down to it, digging in, and we put the herb garden in. The woman I started it with, she had her eyes on, I had my eyes on the herbs. Like,
Sure.
I want to grow herbs. I want to grow every herb. I want to grow every herb in Richo's catalog, kind of thing.
Totally.
She was like, well, she wanted to grow vegetables for the community, and I was the in. So her name is Jeanette. She's been fabulous. So we co-founded this farm, and from the herb garden after that, we started growing vegetables. Last year was our first year with a full-time. We had raised enough money, hired a full-time farmer, and we're farming 2 acres now, and bringing people out to volunteer on the farm. We teach classes on the farm. We donate a large amount of food each year to local pantries, especially after COVID. There is such a need in Peabody and surrounding communities. So, and we wanted people to have first pick, like, nothing wrong with Stop and Shop leftovers. Like, I'm all for the dumpster diving and that kind of stuff too. Like, your buddy on the, absolutely. I love that. But it's so fun. Yeah. I love that. But it's so fun to pick food and bring it fresh to the market where people can, just get the food, and then also teach the kids. And it's not really like where we humans are doing anything. The plants are doing it all. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure I'm working for them. Yeah. I'm pretty sure, because the farm just took over my life for a good amount of time. But that herb garden now is, oh God, it's gorgeous. It just gets better and better every year. These perennial plants are just, and the listeners know too, I'm sure.
Yeah. Where does the name Newhall come from?
That was the name. It was the family name of who had tended this farm and stewarded this land for maybe the last, I want to say 150 or so years. And the last member of the family that he wanted to sell it, and the city had enough foresight to purchase that property. Wow. It has to be used for conservation, education, and agriculture.
Okay. Would you say the mission of Newhall Farm, and who's benefiting from it? Like, you're going to farmers market, selling the produce at farmers markets, or is there like donations involved here, or?
Well, we're addressing, I want to say food security. Like, we're making sure that our community has food security. Okay. And I would add herb security too. Like, I believe that it is our right as creatures on this earth to have food and, all the plant medicine and plant nourishment. So that's our mission, is to grow food with and for the community. And we plug into, this land was deeded for those 3 things: conservation, education, and agriculture. And Peabody is known as a food desert, so we're really,
Really?
yeah, 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 it's pretty bad. Like,
Wow.
it doesn't make sense to me. There's so much that doesn't make sense. I mean, because I think we grow plenty of food in this country.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we donate to this place. It's Citizens Inn. The
Mm-hmm.
food pantry is called Haven from Hunger. And so we harvest and bring our food there. And then the other thing that we've been approved for SNAP and HIP is
Nice.
it's a food incentive program here in Massachusetts where you could use your SNAP card at a farmer's market or with our CSA boxes, and you get that money back on your card.
Wow. I've never
Yeah,
heard of that before. That's awesome.
yeah. I thought it was nationwide,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure what states. But Massachusetts is a state that has that healthy incentives program.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So you have to get approved for it. They only take on so many farms or farmers markets, but yeah, we haven't let's see. The first 2 years we did do farmers markets, but the Peabody Farmers Market closed. They don't
Mm-hmm.
have it anymore. Part of the problem. So that's what we do to make it accessible, and people can buy a CSA box and users come and pick it up at the farm.
So there's the vegetable and food component, then there's the herbal component. It sounds like you manage kind of say the herbal side of things. And I'm
Yeah.
forgetting your partner or co-founder's name. Uh,
Jeanette.
do you kind of split it up that way? And it sounds like you do education, plant walks, etc. Does she do education on the food side?
She's more on the administrative
Oh,
side.
okay.
So I was on the board too, and I was like
Gotcha.
the default treasurer, and
Okay.
I was not happy in that role.
Yeah.
But to start a nonprofit, I mean, it's a lot of work to start a nonprofit. We did the long form, and it was just a lot of administrative time, and but to really dig in and get a farm going too, it's a lot of we didn't have a rototiller. Like it was
Mm.
a lot of elbow grease and me hobbling around after shoveling too much. So so I would say I was more on the land. She does a fabulous job administratively writing grants, like finding these grants. And um this woman is a dynamo that way. She's just
Love it.
fantastic. And our farmer, CJ, is amazing too. She's young.
Enthusiastic.
Yeah, she's got the bug,
Yeah,
and she's got
totally.
the bug for the. And I knew she's got the bug for the herbs too. So it's so fun. Yeah, bringing her in and getting her planting hedgerows. I love a hedgerow.
Mm. Well, shout out CJ. Yeah, I saw CJ in that video as well.
Jay
So,
Hughes. Yeah, she is. I love her. And for the first time ever last year, she was full time, and her enthusiasm for me and the herb garden and for the farm as a whole really gave me such a peaceful feeling like the farm's going to make it. Now CJ
absolutely.
here and she's in love with it and she's hooked.
So, yeah, speaking of, what would you say kind of is like the long-term vision? Is do you guys talk about that? Like, where do you see Newhall heading?
We, well, we just hope we can grow more food
Yeah.
and reach more people. Um, so that's pretty much what Farmer CJ and Jeanette are working on. And I selfishly have my assignment from the herbs, and
Mm-hmm.
that is to reach more people, get them to fall in love with the herbs, and also to understand that, oh man, this is so important to feel secure and resilient, especially after COVID. Like,
Yeah.
know that, plant medicine works.
Yeah. Herbs work.
Herbs work.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And they're for everyone. Everyone ought to be able to get the herb that they need. And they can.
So this is going to probably be published at least in a couple months, but it sounds like you've got a lineup of classes scheduled. So if people want to attend some classes, will that be happening all summer, or how often do you teach out at the farm?
Well, pretty much we've got 3 volunteer days a week. So Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturday mornings.
Okay.
And pretty much if you come to volunteer on that day, you're gonna, I, I can't be quiet on the plans.
You're really an herbal teacher.
Meet my
Oh,
friend, you gotta know this, gotta know. Did you know? Um, and but I really want to work on letting the plants speak for themselves and me not leading the witness. I'm really working on that, Mason.
oh, that's a good way to put it. I like that.
Yeah, because
Let the plants teach.
People will gravitate toward the plant that
Yeah.
they need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do want to say the URL looks like it's Newhall Fields Community Farm.org. Of course,
Yeah.
as per usual, I'll leave the link in the podcast show notes. I am curious what is, I'm sure there's lots of plants growing, but are there any particular herbs that you kind of want to call out that are growing on the farm?
Mm-mm-mm. Well, let's see. The skullcap was
Mm,
amazing last year. So we
wow.
had the your typical Scutellaria, but from Richo I bought Scutellaria bacalensis, I think
Mm,
in 2020. So that's the Chinese skullcap.
I've heard of that one.
And oh man, the blue flower is so beautiful. It's a
Mm,
beautiful plant. So I haven't used it medicinally. Just the root is used of that. So this will be, yeah, what? So it's grown for 3 years. It's beautiful. So I love that. I love
wow.
spilanthes is fun to
Oh,
turn
nice.
onto to get them to taste the little
They're like,
leaf.
wow. Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
I could see
yeah,
that.
like
Yeah.
I love mountain mint. Yeah. And things like calendula and chamomile, they're just no brainers. People are just gonna fall in love and they do all the work. Like I don't have to worry about that. The culinary herbs are important, I think, in terms of, your audience, you, me. I mean, we know about these medicinal herbs and the herbs we like for tea. But if someone isn't familiar with that, I want them to really connect with the culinary herbs. And I
Mm,
love teaching a course on the culinary herbs and also teaching from the standpoint of herbs, growing herbs, this activity is a life art. It's a
yeah,
skill that we have, it's in our DNA. And just to kind of, once people are there, I feel like it activates something. And
absolutely.
yeah, I mean, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for plants. And I feel like that gets activated. So, and whether it's, mint or oregano or thyme, doesn't matter.
Pre-call, I was mentioning I was listening to you in my earlobes on the Real Herbalism Radio podcast, and I want to say you were mentioning to Candace, the host, that you wanted to create a chamomile bed so that you could go take a nap in.
I did it.
And did you actually do it?
Yes,
Can you tell
yes.
us about that?
Oh my gosh, it's a thing to do. Like, so if you have,
Is it at the Newhall farm too, or is it at your house?
yeah, I made one at Newhall Farm.
Nice.
Driving to the farm one day, I passed this house, and they had these big like cobblestone
Mm,
pieces of cobblestone that were like, take it for the house was for sale. So I pulled over and I got that, and I'm like, I'm gonna make the bench because I did a bench at my house,
nice.
and I said, oh, I'm gonna do one at the farm. So I built it under the hops arbor.
Mm.
So can you imagine like laying on a raised bed of chamomile under hops hanging over
Oh,
you?
wow. Yeah.
What could be better?
That's divine.
Yeah,
That's a
yeah,
great idea. Right when I heard that, I was like, oh man, I got to bring that up in the podcast episode, touch base with Rebecca and see if she did it. So that's awesome that you actually followed through on that.
yeah. The one at the farm, I used the German chamomile, but the one at home, I used Roman. That's the perennial,
Mm,
and it stays kind of close to the ground because
nice.
I have I live on a very rocky kind of, whatever, terraced, treed area, which I do love.
Yeah,
So I pop things in wherever I can.
absolutely. And I want to say Lako, who's joining us live, says that sounds heavenly, which I got to agree. Maybe I'll have a little plot in my 0.1 acre, what'd you say? I love
Can
living garden features. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Even in a small yard, there's definitely room for a little chamomile bed. So,
yeah, you just sit there, and it's because it's a twofer. Like, so you're
right.
connected to the chamomile, but you're getting grounded. I'm a big fan of going out barefoot, even in the winter. Like,
Amen. I do the same thing. I
do
have
you?
to oh yeah, absolutely. I make a point of it to do it every day, like touch my feet to the ground,
You
1000%.
too.
I'm full-blown hippie, Rebecca. So
Yay.
I'm a tree hugging, dirt loving hippie, absolutely.
Tree hugging. Yep.
Let's see what Lako says here. Oh, I love living garden features. Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, the you painting the picture with the hops growing overhead too, that just
Oh,
icing on the cake for sure.
icing. Yeah, it's so fun. It's
Yeah.
just so fun. And I feel like here's where it's like I'm not even in charge. Like it's just these, I don't know, being there on the land is like, okay, this is going here. Or they did, and the plants communicate like we're not going
Yeah.
here, we're going over here. Oh, okay, excuse me. My
Such a good reset. Right before this call, I was sitting down by the Fox River here in Appleton, Wisconsin, just kind of resetting. And even though it wasn't necessarily plants, it was like the river was just soothing me and like bringing me back to center. And when I'm typing on the emails or checking my text messages and stuff like that, you just get so pent up, and just nature is just always resets you. It's like it's perfect. So
oh
now I
my
gotta try out a chamomile bed with hops
hops.
overhead.
Yeah, and something else. Maybe I was thinking I planted passion flower last year.
Mm,
So I'm
beautiful.
really hoping that that vine, Cotinopsis and passion
Oh
flower
wow.
kind of just over from the hops arbor. So I just want to get like this whole, I like the wow factor,
Yeah.
y- you know,
Yeah. So
and I want,
Cotinopsis is a vining plant as well, right?
it's a vining plant. It's
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
pretty. And,
Yeah.
but I'm going to be going for I like to chew on that root. So
Nice.
I'm
Yeah,
hoping
I
to.
want to say Cotinopsis was that AK poor man's ginseng, or it's got like the ginsenosides in it. Am I thinking
Oh,
that correctly? Or that's gynostemma. I'm thinking of gynostemma. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I
either
just know
way.
that root is kind of sweet and
Mm,
it's very satisfying to chew on. I've only had
absolutely.
it from Mountain Rose,
Oh, okay. Yep.
but
I used
it's
to work
like,
there.
no, I want to grow it myself. It's just the way I like to make my own things and just know that I can,
Absolutely.
you know.
Lako says she's or love hanging out under my lilikoi vine. Lilikoi is passion fruit. So awesome.
Nice.
Well, I do want to transition to some of your other work. I'm really excited to talk to you about. You're also a therapist. But before we get there, I would just like you to kind of plug Newhall Community Farm before we continue, and just say, how can the listener support if they would like to do that?
Oh, great. Thank you,
Yeah.
Mason.
Yeah.
So we also have the URL newhallfields.org.
Oh,
So
nice.
that's
Okay. It's a little
easier to
shorter.
remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, it points to the same website. So the official name is Newhall Fields Community Farm, but go on over to newhallfields.org. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram, and we do have a donate button. And
Nice.
if you can also, we have a social media. Daybar does our social media, and
Okay, Bar.
I'm not really up to speed on this kind of stuff. But
Totally.
Instagram, Facebook, like us, watch our video, like it. Our YouTube video has that you watched, I think, Mason.
Yep, I did. Yep. I'll leave a
Yeah,
link to that in the podcast show notes too.
yeah, because we love it. We love
Yeah.
comments.
Yeah.
Give us a like, send us a heart,
There you
or
go.
some money is good too.
Spread the word. Yeah, money. And if you're in the Boston area, why not attend a plant walk, or, maybe even volunteer at the farm as well?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, please do. Please do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we hope to do more. We put up a hoop house.
Oh,
Someone
nice.
donated the skeleton of a hoop house. So finally, at the end of the season, I had time to get to that, and we put up its 21 by 20 foot
Okay.
hoop house. We got the plastic over it. We did some wood end walls, and so what I'm hoping to do is get some some sort of money to do some solar power. We're
Oh,
not allowed
nice.
to have electrical out there for whatever reason. The
Hmm.
city says no electric. So I'm going to get some off-grid stuff happening and maybe a shade cloth so we can dry some herbs and then make, everything. I'm ready to teach all of that. Tinctures, oils.
You got that fire. I love it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And with the inside, in the past, I've taught classes outside, but
Hmm.
now, rain or shine, we can teach. And then there's so much, like even yesterday, I was in my own backyard here. I found a bag of elecampane that I had harvested for the seed, the
Hmm.
heads for the seed. And so I was just collecting the seeds yesterday.
I love that plant.
Oh,
Uh,
it's
yeah, yeah,
beautiful.
it
Even
really is.
even the shell, like after you take the seeds out and you feel like the base where the seeds were attached, it's so solid.
Mm,
And the chaff is so fine. Those hairs, like the doctrine of signatures, if you think
mm.
about that, like when I was just like squeezing all the hairs together after I got the seeds out, it was like spongy. And I'm like, oh my God,
Wow.
it's like lung tissue.
I've never heard that comparison before. That's awesome. Did someone kind of teach you that, or did you kind of come to that conclusion?
No, no. Next time
No.
I see Matthew Wood, I'm going to ask him.
He'd be a good person to ask. Well, you mentioned hoop houses, and I actually never had a chance to listen to the episode yet. But um, Rebecca, you probably know this, but Newhall has a podcast now. It sounds like called The Cultivator. Did you know that?
Yes,
Because I
I'm
don't.
so glad you mentioned it. Yeah, so
Okay.
that's Bar. She is such a
Yeah.
great host, and
Okay. So Daybar's the host. Is CJ involved too, or?
CJ. She's been interviewing CJ.
Oh, okay.
We recorded. I think I recorded an episode or two, and that'll be coming.
Oh,
Like they're scheduled to come out. I
so
think.
you're on the podcast too?
Yeah, I'll be on that
Oh,
podcast
nice.
talking about the herb garden and all
Awesome.
that stuff. Yeah.
Sweet. Well, yeah, I did find it on Spotify, so I'll leave a link in the podcast show notes. But yeah, it's called
Oh,
The Cultivator, and you mentioned the Hoop House, and I want to say that was their most recent episode where they talk about I want to say 30 minutes on the new Hoop House
yeah.
situation.
So
So
we got two. So the hoop
okay.
house they were talking about was one we actually got a grant to
Mm,
fund this whole thing to buy the kit, have help putting it up. And so as that was going up, I was watching
nice.
and then kind of modeled the build that I did for the herb. So the herb has its own hoop house. So
Oh,
that's the
rad.
hoop house where that one does have electricity, just got plugged in. CJ's going to be starting seeds in there. And then we have the second hoop house, which is, I'm calling it the herb house. And
Nice.
yeah, that's the little hippie sister.
Okay. All right. I love it. Well, why don't we transition a little bit? You're I don't know if you call it your day job, but you're a psychotherapist. Is that the correct terminology
Yeah, that's what
okay.
I do. Yep.
So, yeah, I'm just kind of curious. You're farmer, therapist, herbalist, but sticking with the herbalist and therapist, is there a way that you would say therapy informs your herbalism or vice versa? Like how do those kind of coincide and live together?
I'm still figuring that part out. It's
Yeah.
coming together at this point in my life. I'm turning 65 this year, and it's finally coming together. I couldn't see what was happening because I, was taking, Rosemary's course and learning from other herbalists and going that route. And at some point in my life, in the 90s, I realized that I felt like I needed some help. Like, I feel like, man, I feel like I'm doing everything right and things should be going good by now. I'm heading into my 40s and didn't feel good. Something seemed off,
Totally.
So, and I resisted for a while, went to a few therapists, and I finally found a really good therapist. Shout out to my therapist, Barbara Alex,
Barbara
who
Alex, shout out. Barbara Alex, I love it.
changed my life.
Yeah.
And also, I added, 10, 12 years ago, I added in a male therapist, so Tom Massa.
Oh, okay.
And, yeah. And so and that was a interest of mine in school at some point, but I really didn't like the way psychology was taught. It was like studying disorders and things like that. What I like about the approach that I learn and that I teach now is that it's based on human nature.
Mm.
Like we're animals, like we're mammals.
Yeah.
We're nature. There's nothing bad about us. That's not possible. That's not even, it doesn't even exist. It's like we're more or less healthy. We're thriving or we're not thriving. So that was such an epiphany for me. And what I noticed is as I did my own work in therapy, remember I was saying I would look at the homeopathic materia medica, and I was like, what I noticed was that as my psyche was healing, my body was too. And so it really drove home that there is no separation. So that's kind of how the herbs and the psychotherapy go together. The psychotherapy is very specific, that we talk about beliefs and what I believe. So in our brain, in our organic computer that we have on top of our neck, is a programmed organ, or our brain, which believes beliefs. Like it's all beliefs, like based on, how do you even know what your name is? Someone looked at you a certain way and made the sound of Mason.
Yeah.
and you think that's
I am Mason. Yeah.
You figured it out.
Yeah.
But are you really? Like,
right.
How do you know? That's, so a lot when we're very little is fed to us. And so now as adults, I think what's so fun is just figuring out who am I? Like, who am I if not my parents' idea of me?
Yeah.
And so that's been the journey there. And it's been such a rewarding journey. It's been such a game changer. Like my life is so much better than I ever imagined it could be. In my marriage, I've known my husband for 39 years.
Wow.
And we still like each other and have so much fun together. And I think that's a result of doing that work on my mental health. Yeah. So backing in from beliefs, fuel or force all thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. So the way I work is I look at those three effects, thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, and help people back into, what am I believing? And is it true? Is it, because if we're plugged into reality, that the reality is that we're human animals, there's nothing bad about us, we're always doing the best we can. That's great news.
Yeah, I'm dog sitting right now and being up close and personal with this dog. I'm like, I don't know if Scarlet the dog is necessarily feeling the same emotions and feeling bad the way we're constantly fighting ourselves. And like, I love the reminder that we're just mammals, and that's really interesting.
Mammals. Yeah.
That's a really interesting way to look at it. And the other thing that you said was something about, I want to say you said you attended therapy first and then you had this calling and then you wanted to become a therapist. And I don't remember who I was asking. I don't want to misattribute who said this when I said, do you have any advice for becoming a professional herbalist? And they said, go see an herbalist. And I thought that was really interesting. I'd never heard someone say, if you want to be an herbalist, you should hire an herbalist for your own personal health. And it sounds like you kind of did that with the therapy route. Like you went to therapy, you saw kind of behind the scenes, you worked on yourself, and then you kind of became a therapist. And I just thought that was really interesting. I don't know if you have any comments on that.
Yeah, I do. I really like the way you said that, and it tickled something in my brain. Yeah. It's the same kind of feeling. So that herbalists will be familiar with. It's so good and so exciting. Yeah. That you have to share it with others.
100%.
Like it's discovering that plant that you love and you can't wait to tell someone else about yarrow, and that it's something like that. Like it's so good. You won't believe this. And that's how it felt. And I was I was someplace and someone had asked me some advice. Well, what I found was people were starting to ask me advice. Same thing as herbalism.
Right.
Somehow it's out there, you got that vibe going and people are asking you. And I remember saying, geez, I think I'd like to hang out a shingle. And
Mm,
so, yeah, so I did, and it's been really, it's really profound, as profound as herbalism. I can't separate the two things out. But what I've noticed, Margie Flint
mm.
is actually an herbalist that I went to on the.
Oh, awesome.
So that was kind of fun because I questioned whether or not I wanted to be a clinical herbalist. But where my mom was a nurse and my dad was a doctor, I heard them talking about their people all the time and this or that. And uh, I didn't think I wanted to do it. Margie's really cool though.
Totally.
Yeah, her intake is intense.
I bet. I bet.
Yeah.
She's a pro, from what I
She,
hear. Yeah.
yeah, she is. And she goes all the way back to when you're in utero.
Wow.
What did your pair, one of the questions in the intake, this is an aside, what, what did your parents say? Like, what did your father say when he found out your mom was pregnant with you?
Which means you have to do familial research. You have to actually go find out those answers, which
Yeah, and
is
both of
quite
my
profound.
parents have well, my father passed away, but he had dementia. My mom has dementia now too. It's like, just I can only guess.
Right. Yeah. Now I want to go see Margie.
But yeah, her intake is wild. It's real. Yeah, it's so fun. She's 10 minutes away from me, so she'll have
Oh,
yeah, so she'll have Jim McDonald come do a
yeah.
class. Nicole Talkish.
Yeah.
I just went to one this winter with Matthew Wood, which I loved.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't actually know her website. It looks like
Yeah,
earthsongherbals.com.
Earth Song Herbals. Yep.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to say, yeah, she's so do you ever go to the International Herb Symposium?
Yeah.
Okay.
I
This
think
is right
I
there.
haven't been in a while. I think it was
Yeah.
2017 when I went.
Okay.
I
Nice.
love that. And because it's so close to me.
Yeah.
Like
Boston's got a whole herb scene. I love it.
yeah, it's growing, Mason.
Yeah.
We've got herb stock. We've got,
Yep. I've been to that one.
have you?
I have. Yeah. I went, shoot, pre-COVID. Well, I was still at Mountain Rosa at the time. It's probably 2018 when I went, something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
Well,
love
that
it. Steph Zabel, great
Steph.
event. Yeah.
Yep, yep. So, and then the New England Women's Herbal Conference. That was the first one I ever went to, and that was like so cool. And I camped out. Like it was my first time ever camping out alone, but it was kind of in the whole.
Very communal.
Yeah, and I felt so safe and held. It was beautiful.
Yeah, I've never been to that one. But well, let me read a couple of comments here real quick. So Lako says, we lived off grid in NorCal for 15 years when our sons were babies. They had their own greenhouse for early homeschooling and winter playground. Magical times. We're on the big island in my hometown now to be close to my folks. This interview really spoke to my heart and was so inspiring. Mahalo for
Oh,
allowing me to listen in. So awesome. I'm glad you're enjoying it, Lako. And then Lako says, Margie is an amazing. Sorry, let me say that again. Margie is amazing. Her son has a restaurant in Kauai.
yes,
Oh,
yes,
wow. I didn't
he
know that.
does.
She will be a speaker at the upcoming Herbal Entrepreneur Conference next week, which is free. Yep. We're definitely promoting that one as well.
Oh,
I
are
actually,
you?
yeah,
That's
I'll leave a link to that. Well, this will be, this will be out way later, so no big deal, but we'll maybe, they do it annually. It's an amazing event. I was interviewed for the herbal entrepreneur course a couple years ago, but yeah, it's a great event, but, well, how are you doing on time, Rebecca? I still got a few questions for you, a bunch
I'm
of questions
I'm
for you.
I'm fine if you are.
All right, great. Well, then maybe we'll end up
Friday
going over.
afternoon.
That's right. Yeah, here we go. Happy Friday to you and Lako. Um, shoot, I had other train of thought too I wanted to say, but that's okay. Well,
That's
I want to
right.
keep it rolling. Do you have any um say low-hanging fruit advice for helping someone with their just mental health or self-care, self-love, that kind of thing? Anything that we could, bits of advice that you could kind of bestow upon me and the audience, me specifically, for working on our self-care, self-love, and mental health?
Yeah, well, I think the plants are a nice start.
Totally.
But I don't think there's any substitute for a healthy self-concept. So getting more in touch either through meditation, taking a walk in the woods or alongside the water, and kind of um, I like meditation as a tool.
Mm.
If one can sit, like you said, you were sitting by the Fox River
Yeah, totally.
and just letting the thoughts flow like a river, and
Mm.
imagine you're on an embankment, just to hear some of those so that you can get clued in to what's going on with your self-concept, because there's a lot of lies,
Mm.
and we've got to fight those lies, and we've got to stay plugged into reality and the truth that
Yeah.
that everything about us is justified and respect worthy. We're forced to be just like a tree or a plant or a bird or a fish or anything.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't knock one of I mean, these squirrels are going wild out here. It's like they don't care. They just want the nut they want. And
That's right.
they don't feel bad about it. And there are areas also, there are like universal lies that we all, I think, suffer from. One is the blame lie. It's such a big lie.
Mm.
And I think kids are taught that they're to blame for other people's unhappiness, mom and dad's unhappiness, and so forth. And that's not true.
Yeah.
Like, we're not to blame for anyone else's problems, and we're not even to blame for our own. Yes, now that we're adults, we have to respond to our needs and to our hurts. And so, yeah, if you can find someone, it's been really weird since COVID. Like, my
Yeah.
therapy practice just really, I mean, I never thought that being a psychotherapist would make one popular, because it had never been the case until COVID. Like, so many couples um, called, and they're not getting calls back. So I don't know what it's like out there in the world of finding someone to talk to.
Yeah.
But it's important to know what those thoughts are, like where the kind of hooks are in the self-concept, where the dings are.
So for your practice, do you think it's good to just see you, say, once a week or once a month, or a therapist in general, not just you, but
Mm-hmm.
consistency over the long haul, almost as like taking like a tonic herb? Or do you think it's kind of like seasonal? You do it as needed, or I guess it probably depends on the person. But I'm just wondering, like, how do you see your practice? Do people just come back week after week, month after month, or do you think you see what I'm trying to say here? I've done a lot of therapy, and
Okay.
I definitely want to get back into it. I moved away, and my therapist stopped doing online after COVID happened. So,
Oh,
but I'm just kind of curious, like, you seem to be a very empowering therapist who provides a lot of tools, and I'm just wondering, do you think it should be, even if you feel ready to step away from therapy, do you think it's good to like do, like, say, maintenance sessions, if that makes sense?
I have a lot of people who do maintenance sessions.
Yeah.
Like, they want to get plugged back in, because it's like if you think of therapy as like a drop on think of a stone that over time has a daily drip. So the daily drip is the lies.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Well, the lies are the ones that give us problems. The truth never will give us a problem. So how
Mm,
we get hurt, unless we uh, a limb falls on our head or we're in a car accident, how we basically get hurt is, I believe, due to believing something that's not true.
mm-hmm.
So if you think of that
Interesting.
as drip over time, there it causes a groove in like
Mm,
a rock. And so therapy is like a drip over here in this other place. It doesn't stay unless there is repetition and recency.
mm,
So, or it's like maybe learning a language.
yeah.
I'll often say, because I think what I teach is it's not always popular. Um, and you would think it would be. Like, when I say to someone, there's nothing bad about you, they don't believe. It's so contrary to what they believe. It's hard for them to even take it.
Yeah.
If you can stand it, if you can stand the truth, that you're a good person and there's nothing bad about you, then you'll come back.
Mm.
So the people I tend to work with are people who can stand that, who can
Okay.
stand hearing that. And so they may come, it depends upon what's going on. So if it's like a marital thing and, it's like or a job transition or students getting out of college and making some transitions there, it could be a weekly thing. And then it may taper to, like titrate to every other week. And then maybe it'll be maintenance sessions.
Once a month or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever, I tell my people, you're driving the bus here.
Yeah.
I'm not wise about anybody. Like
Yeah.
I bring, it is a relationship. So I think staying focused on that, and also that being a good teacher requires a student.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a parent-child dynamic where I'm telling people what they need. It's more, I can teach, but you've got to come in with the raw data, like what's happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we work together. We kind of dig around together to find out what belief is maybe getting in the way there. So yeah, it depends. Some people won't make a return, but some people like to have it on the calendar so they know they're coming. I personally found that very helpful to know that, no matter what's going on this week or this month, I know I have that session planned and I can think about it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Just as far as like some taking care of some admin stuff here, are you currently accepting clients? Do you do online sessions, which it sounds like you do? And then do you accept insurance?
I don't accept insurance.
Okay.
I'm private pay.
Okay.
So yeah, and because I don't see this as a medical activity, I see this as an educational activity.
Okay.
And so in order to accept insurance, I'd have to take notes and perhaps submit some notes.
Oh,
And
wow.
I don't think people, well, I'm going to speak for myself. I do my best work knowing that what I'm going to say stays in the vault with my therapist.
Gotcha.
And I'm not going to be diagnosed because I tell people, like,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with you. Like, especially in this day and age, if you're not, who said that? Like David Hoffman, who I love, 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 love. He'd say, in this day and age, if you're not depressed, there's something wrong with you.
Right.
Something like
That's
that. I
very
mean,
David quote. Yeah.
yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, I am. I work online. I'm working on a program specifically for clinical herbalists. I'm kind of excited about this to kind of bring herbalism and therapy together, because I hear from herbalists, compliance is an issue. And just to get the expectations, I think if you're starting an herbal practice or if you have one, you probably know what I'm talking about, to have your expectations with what your activity can provide for another human being. We've got to have these expectations based in reality. And humans struggle to take care of themselves for very good reasons. And so, working on this course, hope to launch it in November, and I'm pretty excited about it. Just because at my age, I don't think I'm going to write a book, but I feel like maybe I could put a course together.
Absolutely.
And I think herbalists are the type of people that would be open to hearing. We're creatures of nature. Like, it seems to go together.
Totally.
So we'll find out. I have a lot of doctors in my practice, also medical doctors, and they're struggling too. And it's so hard for them to grasp the idea, that this is not pathology.
Right.
And there's not a quick fix. Like, you have the answer within you.
So you mentioned your course. So yeah, this will probably be live, like I said, in a couple months. Do you think you'll have a website up by then? And if you do, please email it to me and we'll get it in the podcast show
This will
notes.
force me to have a
Okay, there you
website
go.
up.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
Now
like
we're holding you accountable.
I've got to get with it again. When I had a shop, I did a lot with the Instagram and videos and all that, and I've kind of let that slide. So I get that going, some introductory videos and whatnot.
Awesome. Well, stay tuned. Well, I'll stay tuned, and I'll include a link, dear listener, in the podcast show notes and the YouTube description for the course. Um, just a couple more questions for you. Why don't you tell us
Sure.
about? Well, before we get into Palmer Pond Botanicals, I was just kind of curious. Do you have a restaurant? I thought I heard that somewhere.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
So well, I don't have a restaurant. I married a chef.
Oh,
And
okay.
when we first came to this suburb of Boston, back in 87, we opened a small restaurant and we
Oh,
ran it together. And so I was the, bartender,
okay.
custodian, oh my
All the
gosh,
above.
we were young, we were in our 30s, we had little kids. And so we ran this restaurant together. And then my husband, John, went on to start another restaurant with partners up in Andover. He's actually there right now. He's retired, but our son is running it. And
Oh,
he called dad in to go cook tonight because someone's out.
no way. Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, it's called Palmer's Restaurant and it's in Andover, Mass.
Wow.
And
That's
so
awesome.
I was the pastry chef there for 25 years also.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
you can't start an herbal business without money.
Right.
You have to have a side hustle. So mine was like yeah, big bowls and whisks, and it translated beautifully when I wanted to open my apothecary because I know how to make things in quantity and figure out measurements.
That's super cool. Yeah, I was just curious. I heard that. So yeah, you've got quite the extensive past. Like I said, farmer, therapist, herbalist,
Yeah, wait till you're
pastry chef.
65.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I'll keep building and yeah, learning new skills and stuff. So awesome. Well, with that, why don't you tell us about Palmer Pond Botanicals?
So Palmer Pond Botanicals, I founded I believe it was 2012.
Okay.
Um, and what was happening then? Oh, so back when I took those courses in the 90s, especially the aromatherapy course had a segment on making um, creams and lotions and the chemistry of that. And so I loved doing that because I was making pastries. I'm great with a bowl and a whisk and measurements. So I made this face cream. My sister was living in Nevada at the time, and I made her, it's so dry out there. Like it's so dry that when I would go to visit her, I'd get nosebleeds. It's like,
Wow.
so I made this face cream for her, which she loved and, shared with friends. And, then my mom wanted some. And then so I started just making things because I wanted to make my own, like I like to make my own soap. I like to make my own creams and lotions and balms because I know what's in them and I just like doing that stuff. So but I would make quantity. So when I ran out of my Rose Absolute that I used in that face cream, I decided that I had the idea to sell it.
Hmm.
So what I did was I started an apothecary because I had the restaurant kitchen to use, and I would go to farmers markets. So uh, my town was not very savvy about herbs. When I went to the farmers market and they had no, like, because I'd have like a big jug of like liquid soap that I had made. And so they could pump their own soap, and they wouldn't know what to make of it. And they would smell my soaps. I don't put essential oils in my soap. It's such a waste.
Right.
It's just going down the drain.
Right.
Um, but they didn't get it. So my next step was I need to educate these people. So that's when I started doing free courses.
Hmm.
And then I had I had to rent a new space for my office. And I found this little cottage in Salem, right near Salem University. and it had like two big picture windows, and I'm like, this would make the cutest herb shop. So I had my therapy on one practice, herb shop on the other. And so one of the things I learned from Rosemary Gladstar, she, at one interview, or at some point, she said, if I had to do it over again, I'd maybe go more like for having like herb spas or something like that. So I took from her course, like I think it was chapter 5 or something, about having foot soaks and facial steams. So I said, you know what? To drum up business, I'm going to have Friday night facials. And because I had been in the restaurant business, I had all the equipment, and I set up a huge table for like 20 people in the cottage the first Friday of every month, and it was free. People would have to sign up on Eventbrite. And so it was mostly women, but some guys did start to
That's
come
cool.
as date night. And
Well, yeah, that's a good idea.
so I would give them five different a 5-step facial. And my secret ingredient, because I live on the ocean and love the ocean and have a little rowboat, is Irish moss, Chondrus crispus. So I'd go out and harvest that and dry it, and then make that the face mask. So
Wow.
people would pour hot water in a little cup, and then when it gelled up, they'd rub it all over their face, and it was just the funnest thing. Like, being an herbalist can be so fun, and it was such a great promoter. So, and I didn't think, I don't know, that people have to buy things afterwards, but I mean, every Friday I'd go out of there with $500. It was a
Wow.
free event, but so I would recommend that if anyone's
That's
starting.
such a fantastic idea. I've never heard of anyone doing that before. Do you still do that? Or, well, you said the shop has since closed.
The shop has since closed,
Yeah.
but if you go on my Facebook on Palmer Pond, the Facebook, and look in the past, you'll see people with like, that's what they have. They have like 10 towels over their head, and they just loved it. And they would
That's
really, and
super cool.
I'd kind of lead them in a meditation.
Mm.
So to weave in a little bit of that good news, and they would have the face steam, and so they'd have clear bowls, and they'd put their own herbs in, and
Mm.
it was just so beautiful and magical. And I'm like, okay, the herbs are just doing the work here. Like, these
That's
people
such.
are connected, and some of these people have come to volunteer at the farm. My friend, we've become friends. So Amy came and volunteered at the farm, and she now is managing a native plant business,
Wow.
going around. She was in a medical office, high heels and a suit, and now she's got boots and she's out digging in
Wow.
the soil. Um, yeah, Casey Sampson, she did the root workshop, which thank you so much for
Oh, yeah.
promoting that.
Great.
She's been yeah, so instrumental. She brought the hops to the farm, and she's just growing into her own herbal self. Yeah,
You
just
love
so
to see
fun to
it.
see people grow. High school students are now, these young, teenagers are really into the herbs. So it's like, for me, it's so exciting to know that this is going to continue on. It's not going to be lost again, you know?
I do know.
I'm
Absolutely.
I'm rambling on. I forgot where we even started with that.
No, no, that was all fantastic. I was following every word you said, and I
All
loved it
right.
all, Rebecca. So yeah, absolutely. It's very inspiring to hear about the work that you've done, that you are doing, to see that the next generation get so enthused over the magic of herbalism. And yeah, it's just been an absolute delight hearing your story, getting to know you more. Why don't we wrap it up with a little bit of, do you have any advice for the budding herbalist who's looking to make herbalism their career?
Well, just going off my own experience, it did help to have another job. Or
Right.
in my case, I had
Side
two
gig.
jobs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, some type of income stream. And I think to be kind of have an idea of what your goal is and what you like to do. And there, in something, I feel like when you're working with a plant, something's going to emerge. For me, one of the plants was Irish moss. It was
That's
like
so cool.
an algae. And it was like, I'm going to harvest this. I didn't know what I just wanted to play with it and make some formula. I was make some skincare stuff. Um, and I think things are changed from when I started. Like people didn't really understand. They're confused about carrier oils or essential oil. So I think there's still education that's needed.
Hmm.
And I think if you can do, for me, uh, doing the free community events, because you can advertise them for free. Like if you do Eventbrite will promote. I mean, I'm sure there's so many other platforms that will promote your free event. Um,
HerbRally.
HerbRally. It used to be, Mason, it used to be like print newspapers.
Yeah,
You
I
could get a
remember that.
press release,
Yeah.
but you can get the word out that you're in town and this is what you're doing. I think if you're thinking about being a clinical herbalist, I do think taking a course, interviewing. I think before you sign up for a course, you ought to be able to interview the instructor or the herbalist that's teaching it to know if it's a good match, whether it's a
Absolutely.
Seven Song or a, Jim McDonald or Margie Flint, like they're all different.
Yeah.
And I know there are certain herbalists that I vibe with
Right.
and not so much others for whatever reason.
And no problem with that. Yeah, that's why the interview is so good. And I've said this story on the podcast before, but when I first started before I took the Columbine School of Botanical Studies, they have a 3-hour interview before you get into the school, so by the end of that interview if you are all a good fit. So,
And that's so smart of them. I mean, I think I do that as a therapist too.
oh,
If
that's
someone
cool.
calls me, I don't charge for this. Come in
Yeah.
and you ask me questions, interview me as much as you need because it prevents false starts,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know? But that's, if you're going to be a community herbalist though, you you probably know a lot more than the people that are kind of come for the plant walk. So do a plant walk,
That's such
present
great
something.
advice. The free events, and when I worked at Mountain Reserves, we used to host something called the Free Herbalism Project, and this would get anywhere from 200 to 1,000 people out to Mount Pisgah in Eugene, Oregon, for this full 5-6 hour event. And honestly, it was a great marketing tool for Mountain Reserves. Granted, it was marketing, but at the same token, it really was kind of like giving back to the community because they had the means to do so. It doesn't have to be some crazy free event, in your community. Even those facials that you would help with the community, like that's such a fun idea, and it probably cost you some money, but not a whole lot. But it just generated buzz for your business.
Yeah, it was easy because I had you know, so I approached my husband for air pots for the hot water and clear bowl because I wanted
Right.
it set as a beautiful table. And
Right.
I just like that. I love that kind of stuff. Um, that was me. It's something that I love. I love also, I had so much fun packaging, I just like making stuff. Like I like to make my own stuff. And so get a feel for what you like and what you don't like.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to look like anybody else's. Like the
Right.
world needs yours,
Oof.
we need
Absolutely.
it.
That's so well put. I love that,
Yeah.
Rebecca.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you. And
absolutely.
yeah, very cool that you work for Mountain Rose too, because I think about my herbal journey and,
Yeah.
being able to buy like good quality. I just love the whole model. It seems like real deal.
Yeah.
Um,
And just to clarify, I don't work for them anymore. I don't know if you knew that or not, but I
of
did
course
work
I
for.
know.
Oh,
I
okay, cool.
follow you.
That's right. I just misheard, and I want to make sure.
Yeah, I think that's kind of cool that you had that experience
Yeah, it was amazing.
and to speak to the farm, just one last plug for the farm.
Yes.
I had a local herbalist. She has a store here, Terry at Artemisia Botanicals. She brought
Oh,
her herb school out last year,
cool.
and it was so interesting to see people who hadn't seen plants growing. They've
Yeah.
only worked with the dried herbs to make that connection and to know like your friends at Oshala Farm
Right.
and like Zach Woods and like all the farmers that Mountain Rose buys from, that's hard work, people. Like that, it takes a lot to properly grow, dry, and process those herbs. Pay the good money. I mean, unless you've experienced it, you can't know how much goes into it. It's so much work. It's
I wish
joyous work.
Right. I wish I could remember which herbalist said this to me. Shoot, it was probably 15 years ago or something like that. But they said, I can't believe Mountain Rose charges only 20. Oh, it was Cap Meyer, I think. Yeah, it was Cap Meyer. Cap Meyer said, I can't believe Mountain Rose only charges what, $20 a pound for nettle or something. Like the amount of work that goes into producing that quantity of herb is just, yeah, it doesn't compute. It's so much work, like you said.
And drying. Yeah, because I did that last year. I dried herbs on a small, I sold for the farm. The farm sold, not me, but I did the drying personally in my own. I have a drying shed from when I had my apothecary. And I got a little kickback on the price. And I'm like, wait a minute, I based it on Mountain Rose's price. And I'm like, wait a minute, this was like, I don't have a big drying heater fan thing or any of that.
Right.
And Oshala, I do have to shout out because of you talking about Oshala Farm, I bought some of their hydrosol.
Oh, nice.
That in one of your podcasts.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Helichrysum.
Totally.
It's so good. So good.
I love hearing that. Yeah, I actually haven't even tried one of their hydrosols yet, but knowing what Elise and Jeff are up to at Oshala Farm, I know it's going to be top notch. So it's really cool that you actually bought it, heard it on the ad, and then tried it out. And so Rebecca can attest to the quality of the Oshala Farm.
Unbelievable. Yes, because that's one I use in my formulating for my special face cream. So yeah.
That's awesome. Very cool. Well, one more comment here. Leko says, so many gems of wisdom and mental takeaways. I really needed to hear what Rebecca shared today. Also, Leko says, I would love to take Rebecca's course. So there's more accountability for you, Rebecca, to follow through with this course that you're going to be creating. I want to say you're calling it a course in human nature for herbal clinicians. And be sure to email me that link when it's live.
The website is, I have the URL. It's called,
oh, nice.
It's conceptsofreality.com. Okay.
Conceptsofreality.com.
So,
lovely. Go for it.
My work to do.
There you go. And you also have, palmerpond.com and RebeccaIngalls.com, which is where your therapy practice is. And people could get in touch with you. Like you said, schedule a free call, see if it's a good fit for you and for them. Absolutely. And any closing thoughts before we wrap up and get out of here, Rebecca?
Oh man, get out, get with the plants. It's where it's at.
Man, the plants are where it's at.
And also thank you for, sure. It's so fun to get to meet you.
Likewise.
Yeah.
It's fun, when we're just going back and forth, direct messages or emails or whatever, you're like, you get a general vibe of the person, but nothing beats hanging out, even though it's Zoom. We'll have to kick it in person someday, Rebecca, when we make it to the Northeast.
One of these events. Yeah, maybe the International Herb Symposium or something. That's close to me, so.
All right. Well, we'll have to meet at the IHS, the International Herb Symposium.com. Awesome, y'all. Well, thanks for listening, Rebecca. Really appreciate you joining us on the show. And shout out and thanks to Amanda for editing. And we'll see you in the next episode of the Herbalist Hour.
Bye for now.
And that's going to do it for today's episode. Thanks so much for listening to the HerbRally podcast. If you'd like to hear more from us here at HerbRally, we now have a text message community, believe it or not. Basically, it's just updates from us. We send about 1 to 7 texts per week, notifying you about new events, videos, courses, podcasts. You get the idea. It's pretty much like our email newsletter, just in text form. So if you'd like to receive text messages from HerbRally, just text JOIN, that's JOIN, to the number 541-256-2895. Again, that's JOIN to number 541-256-2895. And to stop receiving texts, that's easy too. Just text STOP to the same number. It'll opt you out immediately. Okay, thanks again for listening. Have a great rest of your day.